My girlfriend's mom asked when we were getting married. She laughed and said, "Mom, I'm 25. You really think I'm settling for the first guy who's just nice?" I was standing right there holding their groceries. I quietly left that day and took the apartment, the car, and every bill I was paying with me. 3 weeks later, they were crying at my door, saying I'd overreacted. Hey viewers, real quick, only 8% of you watching are subscribed, and the channel's kind of stuck right now. If you enjoy these stories, hitting that subscribe button would really help us keep going. Thanks. 3 months ago, I found out exactly how my girlfriend really felt about me. Still processing it honestly, but the aftermath has been pretty satisfying. Jessica and I had been together for almost 2 years. Met her at a coffee shop, started dating. Things got serious pretty quick. She moved into my apartment about 6 months ago when her lease ended. Nice setup. I covered the $1,500 rent, utilities ran about $200 plus groceries, and most of our entertainment. She worked part-time at a boutique making about $800 a month and kicked in $300 toward household expenses. Her mom, Linda, was always asking when we were going to take the next step. Jessica would deflect or change the subject, but Linda kept pushing. Sweet woman, really seemed to like me. Always talking about how stable and responsible I was, how good I was for Jessica. That Sunday in October changed everything. Jessica asked me to drive her to her parents' place to help them with some yard work. Her dad had hurt his back and needed help moving furniture and raking leaves. I spent most of the day doing manual labor while Jessica caught up with her mom inside. Around 4 p.m., Linda asked if I could drive to the grocery store to pick up stuff for dinner. She handed me a list and her credit card said to get whatever looked good for a nice family meal. Jessica decided to ride along to help carry bags. We loaded up the cart with steaks, vegetables, wine, dessert stuff. Linda had told us not to worry about the cost. She wanted to cook something special. Took about an hour between shopping and standing in checkout lines. Walking back to the car with 4 bags of groceries when Jessica's phone rang. Her mom asking where we were and if we'd grabbed everything. I'm loading bags into the trunk when I hear Jessica's side of the conversation. She's standing about 10 feet away from me, talking loud enough that I can hear every word. Linda must have asked about when we were planning to get married because Jessica started laughing. Not a happy laugh, more like she thought the question was ridiculous. "Mom, I'm 25 years old. You really think I'm settling for the first guy who's just nice?" I stopped loading groceries and just stood there holding a bag of steaks. I mean, Marcus is sweet and everything, but come on. I'm not ready to commit to someone just because they pay most of my bills and buy me dinner. The bag slipped out of my hands. Jessica kept talking like I wasn't standing right there. I want to experience life a little more before I get tied down to someone so ordinary. Marcus is like a practice relationship, good for learning what I want in a real partner. A practice relationship. 2 years of what I thought was building something real, and she saw me as training wheels for whoever she'd actually want to marry someday. I finished loading the groceries in complete silence. Jessica wrapped up her call and got in the passenger seat like nothing had happened. Started talking about what movie we should watch that night, completely oblivious to the fact that she'd just destroyed our relationship. The drive back to her parents' house was the longest 20 minutes of my life. Jessica chattering about her day while I sat there realizing that the woman I thought I loved saw me as a placeholder. Someone good enough for now, but not good enough for forever. I helped carry groceries into the house and made small talk with Linda about dinner plans. Stayed for the meal because leaving immediately would have caused drama. Sat through 2 hours of family conversation while processing what I'd overheard. Jessica's dad kept thanking me for all the yard work. Linda kept complimenting the groceries I'd picked out. Jessica sat there acting like the perfect girlfriend, holding my hand and laughing at my jokes, all while seeing me as just some nice guy she was settling for temporarily. After dinner, Jessica wanted to stay and watch a movie with her parents. Told them I had work stuff to catch up on and needed to head home early. Jessica didn't even offer to come with me, just gave me a quick kiss goodbye and settled in for movie night. Drove home thinking about every moment of our relationship, how she never seemed excited about future plans, how she'd changed the subject when I mentioned moving somewhere bigger together, how she never introduced me to certain friends or talked about me on social media. All the signs were there. I just hadn't wanted to see them. Got back to my apartment around 9 p.m. and started making plans. If Jessica saw me as temporary, then I'd make the temporary part happen on my timeline instead of hers. Monday morning, I talked to my landlord about the lease situation. Jessica had signed a month-to-month addendum when she moved in, so either of us could terminate her portion with 30 days written notice. Good thing I'd insisted on proper paperwork when she moved in. Next, I looked into the car situation. Jessica had been driving my second car, a Honda Civic I'd bought last year. When her car broke down 6 months ago, I'd added her to my insurance temporarily and let her use the Honda while she saved up for repairs. She never did save up for repairs. The car registration and insurance were still in my name, and our written arrangement said she could use it as long as we were together, and she helped with insurance costs. Tuesday, I sat down with all our shared expenses and figured out exactly what ending this relationship would mean financially. Without Jessica's $300 a month contribution, I'd have to cover about $1,200 more in monthly costs. But without supporting someone who saw me as ordinary and temporary, that seemed like a bargain. Wednesday evening, Jessica came home from work in her usual good mood, talking about her day and what she wanted for dinner. "Jessica, we need to discuss something important." "Sure, what's up?" "I overheard your phone conversation with your mom on Sunday." Her face went white immediately. She knew exactly what conversation I meant. "Marcus, I can explain that. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. You said I was just nice, that you weren't ready to settle for someone ordinary, and that I was like a practice relationship. I was having a bad day and venting to my mom. I say stupid things when I'm stressed. You also said you wanted to experience life more before getting tied down to someone who pays your bills. That's not how I really feel about you. It's exactly how you feel about me, and you know what? You're right. You should experience life and find someone who's not just nice and ordinary." I handed her the 30-day notice I'd prepared according to our lease agreement. "What is this?" 30-day notice that you're moving out. You signed a month-to-month addendum, so either of us can terminate with proper notice. You can't just kick me out because of one stupid comment." "I'm not kicking you out because of one comment. I'm ending a relationship with someone who sees me as a placeholder. Where am I supposed to go?" "You'll figure it out. You're young and want to experience life. This is part of experiencing it." "What about the car?" "I'll need that back since we're not together anymore. Our agreement was that you could use it while we were dating." "Marcus, this is insane. You're throwing away 2 years because of a misunderstanding." "There's no misunderstanding. You told your mom exactly how you feel about me. Now you get to find someone who's more than just nice and ordinary." Jessica spent the next hour trying to convince me I'd misheard or misinterpreted what she'd said. But I'd heard every word clearly. She thought I was good enough for now, but not good enough for forever. The next 4 weeks were interesting. Jessica had to find a place she could afford on $800 a month part-time income. Turns out that's pretty challenging in our area. She ended up renting a room in a house about 40 minutes away because that's what fit her budget. She also had to figure out transportation. Her old car still didn't work, and she couldn't afford the repairs, plus rent on a new place. Public transit from her new neighborhood to the boutique where she worked took about an hour and a half each way. The first week after I gave her notice, Jessica kept trying to negotiate. Maybe she could stay until she saved up more money. Maybe we could work out a different financial arrangement. Maybe I was being too hasty about ending things. I stuck to the 30-day timeline. If she wanted to experience life and explore her options, she could do it from somewhere else. Week 2 brought the desperate attempts to prove she'd changed her mind about me. Jessica bought me a nice watch she definitely couldn't afford, and kept talking about how much she appreciated everything I did for her. Too little, too late. She'd been clear about her real feelings when she thought I couldn't hear her. Week 3. She moved most of her stuff out, but kept asking if we could still spend time together. Said she missed me and wanted to work things out even though she was moving. I helped her load boxes into the moving truck she'd rented, but made it clear that moving out meant we were done. No friendship, no staying in touch, no working anything out. The night before her lease terminated, Jessica made one final attempt. Promised she'd been wrong about everything and wanted to prove she could be the girlfriend I deserved. But I'd already heard what kind of girlfriend she thought I deserved. Someone settling for a nice, ordinary guy until something better came along. A few days after Jessica moved out, Linda called to ask what had happened. Jessica had told her we'd broken up, but hadn't explained why. I told Linda about overhearing the conversation and how it made me realize Jessica and I wanted different things. Linda was embarrassed and apologetic, said she'd never meant to cause problems by asking about marriage. 2 weeks later, Linda and Jessica showed up at my door together. Linda looked uncomfortable, but Jessica seemed determined. "Marcus, I've had time to think about everything, and I realize I made a huge mistake." "You didn't make a mistake. You were honest about how you felt." "I wasn't being honest, I was being immature. I miss you and I want us to try again." "You missed the lifestyle I provided. You said so yourself." "That's not true." "I miss you." "Jessica, you called me ordinary. You said I was a practice relationship. You told your mom you weren't ready to settle for someone like me." Linda looked at her daughter with disappointment. "You really said those things?" "I was just talking, Mom. I didn't mean any of it." "She meant all of it," I said. "And she had every right to feel that way. She's young and should explore her options instead of settling." "But I don't want to explore my options. I want to be with you." "You want to be with the financial security I provided. That's different than wanting to be with me." They stayed for about 30 minutes, with Jessica promising she'd learn to appreciate what we had and Linda apologizing for her daughter's behavior. But nothing had really changed. Jessica still saw me the same way, she just realized how good she'd had it. Last month, I heard through a coworker who knew Jessica that she'd had to pick up a second part-time job to afford rent and transportation costs. She's working retail during the day and waiting tables 3 nights a week. I'm doing fine. The apartment feels bigger without someone who thought she was doing me a favor by living there. My finances are actually better without subsidizing someone else's lifestyle. And I've started dating someone who seems genuinely excited about spending time with me instead of just appreciating what I can provide. Jessica wanted to experience life before settling down with someone ordinary. Now she gets to experience exactly that. Working 2 jobs to afford a room in a house while taking buses to get around. Sometimes people tell you exactly how they feel about you when they think you're not listening. Jessica saw me as nice but ordinary, someone she was settling for until she found someone better. Now she can look for that someone better while supporting herself. The best part is knowing that I'm not settling either. Turns out there's a big difference between someone who appreciates you and someone who tolerates you until something better comes along.